The first use case you think about blockchain is payments, right? So that's the first thing you want to do is show that you can secure a payment mechanism just like Visa, MasterCard, but much more secure, without middlemen, take away the fees, offers economies of scale, so the more people use it, the cheaper it gets. The way we view the future of value in the long term, 3 to 5 to 10 years, we view layer 1 blockchains will essentially become like the new republics. These will be the new mechanisms where all the value is going to proliferate to. In the future, there will be the layer 1 blockchain, there will be the mining market, there'll be the dApps, and there'll be tokens. So the lower you get in the stack, the lower risk you have, but the lower rewards. The highest risk reward will be on the layer 1 blockchain, because that's where all the value will flow up. But it's highest value, highest risk. We view layer 1 blockchains, which is Bitcoin, Syscoin, Ethereum, as court systems. They need to be combative to the external forces that we don't control, even in the software world. In the real world, like inflation, hyperinflation, wars, these systems need to be secure from that. And this is why we view Bitcoin as the gold standard for security and decentralization. What else does the world need? What else does the world cherish when you have something like Bitcoin? How can we extend that to something else where we can take advantage to build real world utility? This is where Ethereum comes in. For me, Ethereum is a gold standard for flexibility or general computation. We're trying to stick to the gold standards we know the world's going to cherish and develop on, and we put those two concepts together. And this is what Syscoin is.
One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. What's up, people? We back. For those that are not familiar, I am
that Hotep Jesus dude.
Oh man, what a stream we have today. Before we get into today's stream is sponsored by none other than Syscoin, the best of Bitcoin and best of Ethereum. For all my cypherpunks out there looking to create something that the people need, that the dystopian future needs, go to hotepjesus.com, hit the Syscoin logo, go to the form, fill out the form. It will go to somebody at Syscoin, and the Syscoin team will assist you in building out whatever software it is, technology, idea it is you wish to bring about in the real world. Once again, go to hotepjesus.com, hit the Syscoin button. You'll see the logo right there. Hit the logo, fill out the form, and somebody get to you shortly. For the rest of you guys, hotepjesus.com/sub. Get on my email list so you don't lose track of me, just in case my accounts get zapped somewhere. Go to hotepjesus.com/sub. Get on my email list ASAP. I don't send a lot of spam emails at all, so you guys don't got to worry about that. I only send the most important things that you need to know. And yeah, today's stream is going to start a bit somber. Rapper Takeoff was shot and killed on Halloween, unfortunately. Apparently, there was a dice game happening, and things got intense. One thing led to another, and he was shot. We're going to play a couple of videos here from a couple of black entertainers and celebrities, see what they got to say about the matter, because I really don't have much to say. I'll comment after we play these videos. Let's go into this first one here with Deion Sanders.
I'm just sick and tired of the consistency of people that are influential to you are leaving us consistently. That's our rappers. Takeoff was murdered in a dice game in Houston, where we're going. So that eliminates all y'all leaving that hotel, because it ain't happening until I give you further notice. So whatever her name is, whoever she is, parents, everybody, they're gonna come to the hotel to visit you because y'all ain't leaving. Sooner or later, we gotta start changing our addresses, guys. That's an analogy to saying, I know we this, but we ain't that. We gotta leave that behind that we once did. And that's what you guys are. Now you guys are Jackson State royalty. You ain't no, man. You're not whoever you were a year ago. You're not even who you're gonna be a year from now, which is a blessing. But you can't continuously do the things you've always done and expect to get the results. It's gonna have to be a change. All of us have gone through drastic changes. Have we, coaches? Have we, coaches? All of us are still evolving into what God has called us to be, and that's change. You cannot kick it with the same dudes you kicked it with. You cannot kick it with the multitude of women that you kick it with. You cannot associate in the same realms that you associate with. You're gonna have to change if you expect change. You can't do it. It's gonna come to a time, they can talk about you, they can mock you, they can ridicule you, they can cuss you out, they can clown you, whatever they want. But you're gonna have to separate sooner or later. You're gonna have to disconnect. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to. So get that in your spirit. I'm sad because it just seems like it's always us. But we wanna say we matter, we wanna say we keep it in 100, but it's always us. Now we lose another soldier to some bull junk that when we look back at it, the gentleman gonna say, dang, now his whole life changes. Because now he's incarcerated or murdered in a consequence of what transpired. Because you know how the game is played. And I don't want y'all playing that foolish game because y'all are valuable to your families, friends, loved ones, and you're valuable to us. All right, let's think about that. Let's pray for the families. Ain't no time. Ain't got no time today for foolishness. Let's go get it.
Some wise words there from Dion. Wise words. Let's play Gilly the Kid. Gilly the Kid had some words. Usually he has some pretty wise words. Let's see what he has to say. The Barstool Sports podcaster.
Something happened, boy. Why every time something happened to a rapper or athlete or entertainer or anybody of color, the first thing you niggas do is pull your fucking phones out and start recording and post that shit on the internet, man. You niggas is clowns for that shit, man. Y'all niggas is clowns for that shit, man. The last image a motherfucker wanna see is they peoples laying on the ground bleeding the fuck out, man. Niggas be having mamas, kids, grandmamas, uncles, aunties. That's some dumb shit, man. But the first thing y'all niggas do is pull your phone out. Ooh, look at such and such. Man, that shit ain't cool, man. For real, man. You niggas, that nigga just lost his life, and you niggas is trying to get likes. Tell me how that shit add up, man. You niggas, all you blog sites, y'all niggas is out of pocket, man. Y'all niggas be trying to get clickbait. You niggas is suckers, man. That man laying on the ground, he bleeding out, and niggas recording it and posting that shit on the internet, man. Y'all niggas is clowns for that shit. I'm telling you, man, this the reason why I be hating niggas, man. I'm telling you, man. It just be us. I be hating niggas, man. Shout out to fucking Takeoff, man. Rest in peace, man. Shout out to his family, man. We send our condolences to y'all for $1 million worth of game, man. Shout out to QC. Shout out to P. Shout out to Coach, the Migos, everybody, man. Hold y'all head, man. But y'all niggas gotta stop that shit, man. That shit is not cool, man. Rest in peace, man. Takeoff, man. Love you, Neff.
Well, no lies told. Let's see what Boosie got to say.
R.I.P. Takeoff, bro. Shaking my head, man. Humble nigga. Badass Music Syndicate won't show QC, all the family. We sending some prayers and love for y'all niggas. All Takeoff family, Quavo, Offset, all y'all. Badass Music Syndicate won't, send their prayers out. This rap shit whack, bro. I ain't lying, bro. We targets now, bro. We used to be heroes, This rap shit whack as fuck. This rap shit whack, bro. Everybody want us out of here, bro. R.I.P. Takeoff.
His rap shit is whack, says Boosie. Boosie says this rap shit is whack. What's that button Uncle Hotep got on his soundboard where I say I'm all up in white Twitter? That's why I like to be. That's exactly why. This is exactly why. What did Deion Sanders just say? Can't hang around the same niggas you've been hanging around. You got to get out, right? So once I had the opportunity to exit, I exited. And I ain't looking back. I ain't looking back. Because this rap shit is whack, as Boosie has said. There's another tweet I saw out here. I'm going to pull this up on the screen. Jamel Hill, one of our distinguished Boule Negroes, said black people should be allowed to wear expensive things they've worked hard to buy and be out late, have petty arguments without losing their lives. We keep pointing the blame at everything but the people who recklessly pull the trigger. Black Hotep responds, well, every time we try to have a real life conversation about the criminality in our community, too many brain dead Negroes step in and call us coons and Hoteps. Jamel Hill is one of those brain dead, so I don't know why all of a sudden she is trying to have this conversation. I don't think I could have said that any better. When you have the conversation, that's exactly what happens. You're berated for bringing up the criminality in the black community, the black on black crime, as some would call it, etc., etc. You're a sellout. You're deflecting from conversations about white supremacy. Those are the things that they'll say. Now, all of a sudden, everybody want to have a conversation because we lost a rapper, because we lost another rapper. I'm sure there's more on the way. We're going to lose more in the meantime, unfortunately. It is what it is. Rapper Takeoff. Send my condolences to Amigos and the family, the entire hip-hop culture, and the people mourning the lives of yet another life lost to gun violence. Unfortunately, this happened over something probably petty during a dice game. Apparently, some people are saying that one of his own, somebody from his own crew shot him accidentally, shooting recklessly. I don't know how true that is. That's what the internet is saying. I guess we'll get some conclusions on this later. Either way, no matter what the story is, Takeoff ain't coming back. Uncle Hotep will not be with me this Thursday or next Thursday. So I'll be running Hotep's Been Told You, either by myself or with a special guest. Who would you guys like to see as a special guest? Tell me who you'd like to see as a special guest on the show. I can probably invite many people, but let me know in the comments who that person should be. All right, let's go to the next story here. This one is rather interesting. This one is titled "How the Media Trains Journalists to Lie," and I've talked about this a lot. Pointing out how the media plays games with their wording, etc., etc. So let's just dive right into this thing. On the debate stage last week, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator candidate John Fetterman performed like one might expect someone who survived a stroke only 5 months ago. In the aftermath of the debate, Democratic strategists have been asking anonymously, of course, how anybody thought it was a good idea to foist Fetterman onto such a public stage. The simplest answer is that they thought they could get away with it because they believed their own hype. I'm reading the chat as you guys suggest names, etc., etc. Somebody said Joe Rogan. That would be insane. Nerd Nash, Cannon Hotep, Paul Pelosi. Oh, you guys are hilarious. A swarm of liberal political pundits and journalists have spent the previous weeks denouncing any questions about Fetterman's health as illegitimate, while attacking the few reporters who dared raise such questions as heartless bigots. and right-wing shills. In the process, they unintentionally revealed something essential about how the elite media distorts the public's understanding of key issues by bullying journalists into repeating obvious lies. Okay, here's our first case in point. NBC News, Dasha Burns. October 7th, Burns conducted an on-camera interview with Fetterman. Because Fetterman has auditory processing issues as a result of the stroke, according to his campaign, he had to use a closed caption system to understand Burns' questions. After the interview aired, Burns told NBC's Lester Holt on air that Fetterman didn't appear to understand her pre-interview banter. Burns was just doing her job by reporting on the fitness of a public official, but her assessment also seemed to lend credibility to the line of attack coming from Fetterman's Republican opponent, Mehmet Oz, who has claimed that Fetterman is suffering from cognitive decline and covering it up. Simply for stating the facts, as she had observed them, Burns was seen to be supporting the wrong candidate. A little bit of a wrong think. Told the truth. Not allowed to do that. Not when it works against the Dems. The media felt a great disturbance in the force. On Twitter, blue check journalists jumped in to defend Fetterman and throw shade at Burns. Soon Burns' tweets were inundated by thousands of haters, potentially bots, I would assume, calling her disgraceful, trash, and again, obliged. What's this tweet? The emo dragon. I always like to see these accounts. Pronouns in a bio, huge red flag. Some of the most vitriolic people ever come from the left. The Associated Press published a syndicated story amplifying the criticism and suggesting that Burns's remarks had given ammunition to the Republicans. How dare you do that? How dare you tell the truth, which unintentionally gives ammunition to the right? The New York Times published an op-ed deploying her remarks. Savannah Guthrie confronted Burns about it on air. On The View, Sonny Hostin implied Burns had acted unethically. What? BuzzFeed published an article essentially accusing Burns of putting disabled people at risk of violence. What? Recaps of the criticism surrounding Burns' interview appeared in the Washington Post, LA Times, and other publications where they served to legitimate the idea of controversy that the media itself had created. That's how it remained for 2 weeks, with Burns scolded and swarmed and other journalists left to internalize a message about what would happen to them if they stepped out of line. Then Fetterman's abysmal debate performance vindicated her. Most of us know better than to expect the media establishment to pause for even a fleeting moment of introspection, but still, it's incredible to see how many pundits and blue check experts chose to double down on the obliged defense. The few non-conservative commentators. Hold on a second. I don't even know what this word obliged means. Let's probably a word I should know too. Let's pop that into Google. Let's see here.
Ableism.
Ableism. Okay. Ableist. Ableist. How do you say that? Discrimination in favor of an able-bodied people. Oh. Ableism?
Ableism.
Ableism. So ableist. Now this is ableist. Okay. This is discrimination against people with disabilities based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. Oh, this is like handicap phobia. Oh, ableist. Okay, interesting. Okay, so it's incredible to see how many pundits and blue check experts chose to double down on the ableist defense. The few non-conservative commentators who had the gall to note the reality about the debate were promptly disciplined. Yeah, disciplined, indeed. There is no amount of empathy for and understanding about Fetterman's health and recovery that changes the fact that it is absolutely painful to watch, tweeted New York Magazine's Olivia Nuzzi. In response, Nuzzi was instantly accused of ableism, racism, what? Acting out of hatred and lacking conscience. Wait, how is she racist? Wait, what? I'm reminded of the time Nuzzi wrote a heartfelt tribute to her virulent racist friend who died. Oh, blue checks on the attack. Just all sorts of off topic. Per usual, the experts had spoken, but for the rest of us, it's an excellent time to take stock of what Burns' colossal ratio and the subsequent swarm on Nuzzi were meant to accomplish. When I was in college, like any budding leftist, I read a lot of Noam Chomsky. Chomsky's most famous book is Manufacturing Consent, in which he argues that the big corporations that pay for the advertising that keeps the media industry afloat exercise a soft power over journalists. It's not that they tell publishers and broadcasters what they can and cannot print. They don't need to. Their looming presence as the industry's paymasters is close enough for editors and reporters to figure out quickly where the lines are that they cannot cross, simply by observing what kind of reporting is incentivized in the business and what kinds of stories will help them get ahead in their own careers. Individual journalists self-censor. What emerges is a pliant, self-policing, corporate-friendly media. Okay, this is a very, very important paragraph right here. Very important paragraph. I'm going to go ahead and highlight and stop here, and let's talk about this. I had one of my internet famous friends come visit me yesterday, and we hung out for the day, and we talked about various topics. And one of them happened to be the entertainment industry and the type of content that comes out of the hip hop culture in particular. And it is not necessarily that the labels tell these people to have, defunct music. It is exactly this. Simply by observing what is incentivized in the business and will help them get ahead in their careers, helps them self-censor, emerges what is pliant self-policing and corporate-friendly media. So they see, people would take a look and say, okay, if I talk about this, this, and this, if I talk about alcohol, if I talk about drugs, if I talk about sex, I'll go viral. I'll get the record deal. I'll get the push from the record labels. So then you practice something called self-policing. I myself am guilty of this. I absolutely self-censor and self-police in an effort to be successful. It is almost part of the game. There's a certain line you have to draw. There are certain things you can and cannot talk about. Certain things you talk about will get you canceled. We've seen examples of that with Ye. We've seen examples of that with Kyrie. We're seeing examples of that here in this article. So it's a very, very important paragraph to highlight and to understand how these journalists are being controlled. Okay, let's continue. And I've said this in the past. This is something that I've expressed to people in the past, and again, it's being expressed here. All you need to do is reward something, and people will naturally fall in line. Chomsky's theory, if it was ever true, seemed to become obsolete with the invention of the internet. Before the internet, the mass media was the only way for advertisers to reach millions of people at a time. Today, not only has social media broken that monopoly, but digital ads can be targeted in a way they never could on TV or in newspapers and magazines. No longer do corporations have to pay a surcharge on their ad spending to cover the salaries of journalists and editors by typesetters. They get a much better service for way cheaper on Google and Facebook. Now, just keep in mind that Google and Facebook are the arbiters of digital advertising. They've done a lot to inhibit advertising for the crypto industry under the guise of protecting people from crypto scams, which is a very legitimate argument. However, there's other reasons why I'm sure we can surmise. Let's continue. In his book, Post-Journalism and the Death of Newspapers, Andre Mayer describes what happened next. Starved of ad revenues, print media outlets changed their business models. They had already been drifting toward partisanship, but now they saw there was money in it. Instead of seeing their readers as consumers of the ads they sold, they started looking at them as potential donors. They began appealing to their political consciences, asking readers to subsidize their noble journalistic missions, NPR pledge drive style. Support our brave, truth-telling work, went the pitch for Democracy Dies in Darkness. This shift went full throttle during the Trump years as the president attacked reporters as the enemy of the people, instantly transforming them into heroes in the eyes of Democrats. Imagine that. Imagine just a few years prior, the media was definitely looked at as the enemy of the people, and then a little switcheroo, and now all of a sudden people think the media is on their side because the media is attacking Trump. Anyway, let's continue. The only way to defeat Trump and his lies, liberals came to believe, was by forking over their money to the New York Times. Only the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Guardian and the New Republic and the Intercept had the reporting chops, the prestige, and a national audience to counter Trump's propaganda with the truth. By subscribing to the Times, you weren't just paying to access a consumer product, you were donating to a cause. You were doing your part to make sure the truth got pushed out into the discourse, that it reached millions of Americans who, without it, might be left brainwashed by the MAGA hate machine and its disinformation. In other words, you were paying to build your own propaganda apparatus to counter Trump's. Under Trump, the media brands behind the news, Americans consumed, Under Trump, the media brands behind the news, Americans consumed became badges of political affiliation even more than they were before. If you despise the administration, you would never dream of watching Fox News. Instead, you would watch CNN or MSNBC voraciously and share stories from the New York Times or the Washington Post on your Facebook feed. During the Trump administration, this became the media's new value proposition to its consumers, and for select few outlets, it was a godsend. The New York Times, or the failing New York Times, as Trump would call it, subscriber rolls ballooned, as did its newsroom, becoming the largest in the paper's history. As news organizations became more partisan than ever before, their loyal readers and viewers came to demand a standard of ideological fealty from their coverage. Before the internet, a politically unpopular story might trigger a flood of nasty letters to the editor, but as long as it didn't upset any major advertisers, the haters could be safely ignored. Now that it was the readers paying the rent, things were different. A revolt by your readers, if you were a newspaper publisher post-2016, was a direct threat to your bottom line. Interesting. But there was a threat even more perilous than that. A revolt by all the young reporters you hired to cater to the millions of outraged new subscribers that had enlisted in the fight against MAGA authoritarianism. Those young reporters were true believers. They'd never known the old, aspirationally nonpartisan mode of journalism. They had joined your outlet to fight for social justice, wielding their pens as swords. So had all the app coders. You had enticed away from their overpaid but unfulfilling Facebook jobs with the premise that here, you might take a pay cut, but you could also change the world. Today, a politically unpopular article or personality can leave a publisher besieged from the outside while facing a revolt from within. We've seen this play out again and again, especially at the New York Times. There was the Nazi next to the door scandal, the Donald McNeil fiasco, the Tom Cotton op-ed outrage, and Andy Mills brouhaha, the Allison Roman inanity, and everything that Barry Weiss ever wrote or tweeted. Some of these tempests may have started with readers. others with journalists, and mostly it was hard to say because they emerged from the swamp where the media industry's most indignant consumers and its loudest employees coalesce. Twitter. It's true. As these changes took place across the digital media industry, Twitter became a disciplinary tool for the journalistic profession. Wow. Wow, ain't that the truth? And that's what they did to Kyrie recently. Disciplinary tool. You get back in line. It became the means by which the partisan and ideological vanguardists huddled inside the media's fortress walls could find their ragtag armies on the outside and wage war together against disfavored colleagues like Weiss and McNeil. That's what happened to Dasha Burns. I don't know Burns, and she didn't respond to my request for comment, but I do know that she's a human being. As such, I suspect that, if not for being so publicly vindicated by Fetterman's debate performance, she may have begun to think twice before, again, giving a voice to an obvious but unpopular truth that could draw the collective wrath of her colleagues. She may have learned, in other words, how to lie. Instead, though, the script was changed. The real world punched through the narrative, revealing the flimsiness of the media's establishment's partisan indignation. As Fetterman stammered through response after response, the obvious became even more so. Dasha Burns was right, and all her haters were disingenuous hacks. So maybe this story will have a different outcome. Maybe the media will experience, just for a moment, an unfamiliar feeling of humility. But I doubt it. I doubt it too, sir. I doubt it too. And before I misgender you, let me make sure you are Sir Leighton Woodhouse. I'm sorry. I still don't know that gender. Whoever Leighton Woodhouse is, I'll just give them the gender of they, just to be on the safe side there. An amazing article. So now we have to pull up the Atlanta article. What is it called? The Atlantic, right? God damn it. Here we go. They had an interesting article. I believe it was the Atlantic about the pandemic and the apologies or something like that. Here it is, right here. We have to read this. I never read it. I saw it pop up on my timeline. But after reading an article about how the media lies, we have to read this and see what they're saying now post-pandemic. All this is tied together. Thank you for the super chat. I'll read it in just a moment. Let's declare a pandemic amnesty. By Emily Oster. We need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID. This is going to be hard to read. In April 2020, with nothing else to do, my family took an enormous number of hikes. Okay, so she's going to start off with a personal story. All right. Very good marketing ploy. We all wore cloth masks that I had made myself. We had a family hand signal, which the person in the front would use if someone was approaching on the rail, and we needed to put on our masks. Once, when another child got too close to my then 4-year-old on a bridge, he yelled at her, "Social distancing." These precautions were totally misguided. In April 2020, no one got the coronavirus from passing someone else hiking. Outdoor transmission was vanishingly rare. Our cloth masks made out of old bandanas wouldn't have done anything anyway. But the thing is, we didn't know. You didn't know. You didn't know. Wow. Okay. I've been reflecting on this lack of knowledge thanks to a class I'm co-teaching at Brown University on COVID. We spent several lectures reliving the first year of the pandemic, discussing the many important questions we had to make under conditions of tremendous uncertainty. Some of these choices turned out better than others. To take an example close to my own work, there was an emerging, if not universal, consensus that schools in the U.S. were closed for too long. Really. The health risks of in-school spread were relatively low, whereas the cost to students' well-being and educational progress were high. The latest figures on learning loss are alarming. Okay, links to this Reuters article. U.S. student test results show toll of pandemic lockdowns on learning. Okay. But in spring and summer 2020, we had only glimmers of information. Reasonable people who cared about children and teachers, advocating on both sides of the reopening debate. Another example, when the vaccines came out, we lacked definitive data on the relative efficacies of the Johnson & Johnson shot versus the mRNA options from Pfizer and Moderna. The mRNA vaccines have won out, but at the time, many people in public health were either neutral or expressed a J&J preference. This misstep wasn't nefarious. It was the result of uncertainty. Wait, what? Is that true? I could have sworn the government paid Pfizer and Moderna, or Pfizer or Moderna. Let's just continue. Oh, wow. And I could have sworn it was Trump that was behind the J&J. Wow. Okay. Obviously, some people intended to mislead and made wildly irresponsible claims. Remember when the public health community had to spend a lot of time and resources urging Americans not to inject themselves with bleach? That was bad. Misinformation was and remains a huge problem, but most errors were made by people who are working in earnest for the good of society. Given the amount of uncertainty, almost every position was taken on every topic, and on every topic, someone was eventually proved right and someone else was proved wrong. In some instances, the people were right for the wrong reasons. Wait, what? Right for the wrong reasons? I need examples. I need examples to back up that claim. In other instances, they had a president understanding. In other instances, they had a prescient understanding of the available information. I would call it a priori understanding. I mean, we had common sense, lady. The people who got it right, for whatever reason, may want to gloat. Gloat? It's not about gloating. It's about the fact that people's lives were at risk, and we are absolutely upset that you vilified us and made us out to be demons. Those who got it wrong, for whatever reason, may feel defensive and retrench into a position that doesn't accord with the facts. All this gloating and defensiveness continues to gobble up a lot of social energy and to drive the culture wars, especially on the internet. These discussions are heated, unpleasant, and ultimately unproductive. In the face of so much uncertainty, getting something right had a hefty element of luck. And similarly, getting something wrong wasn't a moral failing. Treating pandemic choices as a scorecard on which some people racked up more points than others is preventing us from moving forward. We have to put these fights aside and declare a pandemic amnesty. We can leave out the willful purveyors of actual information while forgiving the hard calls that people had no choice but to make with imperfect knowledge. Los Angeles County closes beaches in summer 2020. Ex post facto, this makes no more sense than my family's massed hiking trips. Okay, let's stop right there. We have to question. We have to question intelligence. See, there's a difference between being intelligent and there's another thing to be knowledgeable. And what we have are people that are knowledgeable but unintelligent. If it didn't make sense to you that being outside had a very low transmission rate, there's not much hope for you. If you couldn't contend with the fact that wind blowing, being on the beach, being outside, receiving the UV rays being one of the things that destroy a lot of different types of bacteria. You can actually use UV rays to purify water in many instances. The fact that you didn't have this basic understanding of science, this basic common sense, but now you're asking for an amnesty is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely, you should be completely embarrassed. You deserve to be shamed. But it's absolutely ridiculous that you actually thought that closing the beaches was a good idea. None of us over here on this side of the fence thought that was a good idea. None of us thought it was a good idea to close the gyms. When you close gyms, then you fine the gyms for staying open. Then you sent the police down to their establishments and forced them to close. But you left McDonald's open. You left Wendy's open. The same things that deteriorate health. Nearly every decision that was made went against common sense. Nearly every single decision that made went against everything taught in your average 9th grade science class. If you made it to 10th grade, you should have known that nearly every decision made over the past 2 years made absolutely no sense. Made absolutely no sense. So to sit up here and say we can leave out the willful purveyors of actual misinformation. Who were can you tell me who the willful purveyors of actual misinformation were? Who were they? Because they're the ones that you're saying in the next part of your statement, while forgiving the hard calls that people had no choice but to make with imperfect knowledge. So who were the willful purveyors of actual misinformation? Who was that? Can you please tell me? Was it Dr. Fauci? I don't know. You tell me. Who was it? Who thought it was okay to close Los Angeles County beaches in the summer? In the summer. Let's continue. But we need to learn from our mistakes and then let them go. We need to forgive the attacks too. What? Hold on. We need to forgive the attacks. So you shamed us, and now that you're proven wrong, we shouldn't shame you, and we should forgive you for shaming us. Goddamn, we got to be some real Jesus motherfuckers out here to do some shit like that. You know what? No way. There's no way. Not at this point can I forgive them. There's no way in hell I can forgive these people. Not today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe a year down the line, the Jesus in me rises up and I find some way, but no, I can't do it. Not today. Absolutely not. No way. No. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. You know why? Because I had to watch kids on my team, my soccer team, go and get this inoculation. I had to sit there in the middle of a game and watch a kid say, "Coach, you got to take me out." My heart hurts. Now, here I am in a position where I can't say anything because everybody around me thinks getting that inoculation was the right thing to do. And if I tell them it was the wrong thing to do, then I'm the bad guy. But I got to sit there and watch this kid sit on the sideline who was in perfectly good health prior to the inoculation, hold his chest. I had to watch kids sit out because they got sick following the thing, not feeling well. I had to watch family members go to the hospital. Very close family members go to the hospital. Not only that, not only go to the hospital, but go to the hospital with heart problems. If you kill my family member, I should forgive you. If you kill my family member, I should forgive you. I think not. The only way I could forgive somebody is for my own well-being. Just so it can sit right with me. I'm not forgiving. The way she puts this is we should forgive them for them. Because I thought schools should reopen and argue that kids argue that kids as a group were not high risk, I was called a teacher killer and a genocide heir. It wasn't pleasant, but feelings were high. And I certainly don't need to dissect and rehash that time for the rest of my days. Everybody knew, we all knew it made no sense to do this to children. We all fought against this. And if you would have said something, you would have had your account zapped by big tech. We should forgive you for that. Moving on is crucial now because the pandemic created many problems that we still need to solve. Student test scores have shown historic declines, more so in math than in reading, and more so for students who were disadvantaged at the start. We need to collect data, experiment, and invest. Is high dosage tutoring more or less cost effective than extended school years? We have some states recovered faster than others. We should focus on questions like those because answering them is how we help build our kids for the future. You know, let me tell you what the answer to that is. Homeschool. Take your kids out of that fucking school. I'll be taking mine out very soon. Very, very soon. I'll be taking my kids out of school and I'll homeschool them myself. Fuck it. Fuck it. It's worth it. It's worth it. I'm at the point where I'm 99% sure that I could teach my kids better than the school can teach them. Because they come home from school and they don't know shit. They don't know shit. They don't know shit from shit. And it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me that my kids don't know shit. And my son's in AP. He's in AP classes. He's in advanced classes. My daughter, all A's. And don't know shit. So you're giving them A's, but they don't know shit. There's something wrong there. Many people have neglected their health care over the past several years, notably. Routine vaccination rates for kids for measles, pertussis, etc. are way down. That's another thing. I'm not putting my kids in school because they want to have them vaccinated, and I'm not vaccinating my kids. I'm sorry. I'm not giving them any of them. When my daughter was born, the hospital said to me, "Oh yeah, we're going to give her a shot." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to put no shots in her." "Oh, but it's highly recommended." I said, "What was the shot?" I forget what they said the shot is. You got to give babies when they're born. I was like, yeah, nah, that seems to be something that's a sexually transmitted disease. And considering that she's a baby, I don't expect her to have those type of problems right now. He said, well, it could happen. A kid at school could bite her. Yeah, okay, well, we'll take those chances. But the baby was just landed in this world. She just got here like 15 minutes ago. And you already want to put some foreign objects, foreign material in her body? Yeah, I think not. So I signed that paperwork and said no. I had to go to a doctor who said, oh, if your baby's not vaccinated, we won't look at her. All right, no doubt. Go to another doctor. Went to another doctor. Said, this is the last appointment we'll take your unvaccinated daughter. Said, no problem. We won't be back here. And we debated for about 10 minutes, to which a bunch of questions I had that the doctor could not answer. And she got very frustrated. Her only argument was, well, weren't you vaccinated as a kid? You seemed to turn out, right? To which I asked her, I said, well, how many IQ points did I lose based upon the vaccination? And then she looked at me kind of confused because she didn't expect such a thoughtful question like that. What if you lose 20 IQ points? What if you lose 10? What if you lose 30? What if you had the capability to have 160 IQ, but because of some of these inoculations, you were just a little bit dumber? Affected you neurologically in some sort of way. What if? Rather than debating the role that messaging around COVID vaccines had in this decline, we need to pull all our energy into bringing these rates back up. You see this? You see? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. She just literally undid every good she tried to do in this article. Rather than debating the role that messaging about our COVID vaccines had in this decline, we need to pull all our energy into bringing these rates back up. What? What? Pediatricians and public health officials will need to work together on community outreach, and politicians, we will need to consider school mandates. Do y'all see this shit? Do y'all see this shit? She went from, yo, maybe mandates was wrong, to, where is it? Where is it? I want to find it. Am I reading that right? Can somebody tell me if I'm reading that right? Did I read that wrong? Maybe my comprehension's off. You know, I was vaccinated as a child. Yeah, there it was. The hepatitis. That's the shot they try to give my kids. The hepatitis. It's like, man, I ain't giving my daughter no damn Hep B. Fuck out of here with that shit. Where is it? I like pointing out contradictions, so I want to find this. Someone else approving it. Another instance. Okay. All this gobble up. Social. The heated. In the face of uncertainty. Now, scorecard. Okay. We have to put 25 times. For variance. Large and close down. But we need a firm state. We need to forgive this task. When kids are high. It wasn't planned on feeling right. Needed to be in time. We crystal. We need to solve student test scores and down experiment. Bro. So here, we need to collect data, experiment, and invest. But down here, it's like, nah, we just, forget about the data about the other inoculations. Let's just completely ignore that. The other inoculations, so surely those things are perfectly safe. Sure, those things are perfectly safe. Okay, right here. To take an example of my own work, there's an emerging, were closed for far too long. The health risks of in-school spread were relatively low, whereas the cost to students' well-being and educational progress were high. The latest figures on learning loss are alarming, but we had only glimmers of information. Reasonable people who cared about children and teachers, advocated on both sides of the reopening debate. Now, where's the part where she said she was attacked? Here we go, right here. Because I thought schools should reopen and argue that kids as a group were not a high risk, I was called a teacher killer and genocide here. It wasn't pleasant, but feelings were high. And I certainly don't need to dissect and rehash that time for the rest of my days. But right here, rather than debating the role of messaging about COVID vaccines had in this decline, we need to pull our energy into bringing those rates back up. Need to consider school mandates. Yo, get your kids out these schools ASAP. I'm going to take a caller or two. Get your kids out these schools ASAP, bro. This is absolutely ridiculous. She undid every good thing she said in that article, or semi-good thing. 202-596-5631. 202-596-5631. I'll throw it in the chat here. We'll take a couple of calls before I head out. Cannon Hotep, thank you. Said, don't forget about the Time Magazine article and cover. Send that in the chat. I'll bring that up, Miss Frizzle over everybody, for real. F your amnesty. Emily tune in to Hotep's Been Told You Thursday. Facts. Hotep Thursday, exactly. If you tuned in here, you'd have known. Chlorine kills germs, and some have asthma attacks due to vaporized chlorine. That means swimmers were safe, but common sense isn't common. Shout out to Dax Hill, our in-house swimming expert. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, these people.